Welcome to Smart Living. I am so excited. We have a wonderful organization called Entryway in the Valley that basically helps homeless people in a very kind of interesting way, and I would say a win-win scenario. So we have Mandy, who is the director of the program here. So first of all, Mandy, welcome to Smart Living. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
So tell me a little bit about Entryway and what you guys do in terms of helping people who are homeless.
Yeah, so we are about 2 years old here in the Valley, and we started because obviously, if you look around as you drive through the community, we have a homeless issue. We have people who are struggling day to day to make ends meet, and that's a stressful life. It's chronic stress that's in these folks' lives as they just try to make it through the day. And multifamily housing is a great option for folks as they look for a career and stable housing.
Okay, so that's how you help people.
Yes.
So now there's a process that people have to go through.
Yes.
So you don't just accept anybody who's homeless off the street.
Yeah, that's right. So we do have some criteria that folks have to meet to be enrolled in our program, and then we work with them it typically takes around 90 days to upskill them and get them work ready for entry-level positions in multifamily housing. And then all of those positions are going to come with on-site housing. So we both get them a job and end their homelessness in just one big swing.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, with your program Entryway, now I know some of the things that you have certain people like, listen, when we have a homeless population, we have quite a varied population. So because we have a lot of mentally ill people who are on the street, who self-medicate through drugs, we have people who are drug addicts that are also homeless. And then we have people who are they just can't seem to get ahead. So are all three of those populations that you work with?
Yeah. So we really specialize in early intervention into homelessness. Okay. So basically, we try to focus on that first year. So someone who has been homeless for less than a year, that is our ideal client.
Okay.
And so we're looking for people who have recently been in the workforce, who have recently had a crisis, and now they're in a life situation where they're unstable. So we call that situational homelessness.
Okay.
And the other side would be chronic homeless. So once you've been homeless for a year, kind of in the system, all of that, we kind of move you into the homeless category. Of course, those are never perfect categories, but that's sort of where we aim. We aim at folks who have been recently in the workforce, who have been homeless for less than a year, and we try to get them back on their feet as quickly as possible so that they don't have to endure all the trauma of homelessness.
Oh, yes. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, it is such a thing for me, like just even viewing anybody who's homeless on the street. It's really hard to think that people that are unhoused.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things that I love and what caught my interest about your organization was that situational homelessness. That's the thing where I feel like it's just unfair. I mean, you were working like, let's say, you're not that educated, you graduated from high school, you're just doing a job, but you're making it, but you're just barely making it. So you're making like maybe $30,000 or $40,000 a year, and your rent's like $1,500, like you don't have a lot of money. And then boom, you lose that job. And then you're homeless.
Yep. So the most common people in our program are young families, people with young children, right? Because you've got this burden of childcare or, that sort of before school age, or even honestly after 3, what are these parents doing after 3 o'clock with their kids, right? So they've got this financial burden and these kids, or we have that 55 plus sort of group as well, of people who thought their Social Security was going to be enough or thought they would have enough retirement, but then COVID, things happened. Maybe they had to dip into that 401k, or maybe they just, didn't have the plan, and now they're in the struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people come to you, can you give me I know you've had quite a few success stories.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of a typical scenario? So you have a young family, recently homeless, they come to you.
Yep.
And they ask for some help. So what are the things that you're going to do?
Yeah, so typically our referrals are coming from shelters, from the shelters around the Valley, or even just community centers, librarians, they'll send us a referral. So anyone can send us a referral at entrywaytalent.org/apply.
Okay.
And so that's where people apply to our program. We do have some criteria We do, want them to be either experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. Maybe they're couch surfing. Maybe they're staying with grandma and it's not a good situation. Maybe you're in a relationship that you want to get out of, but you can't. So yeah, we're a great option for those folks. We do ask for 1 year of sobriety and a genuine interest in working in the field. Those are for the most part, our main criteria to get into our program. We do have a rule about felonies. You can't have a felony in the past 7 years and be eligible for our program. If you have an older felony, we can still work with you. So, obviously that's a kind of a case-by-case situation. Apply, have the conversation, and let's go from there and see if every person I meet with, we create a personalized vocational case plan. So we're going to get you on a path that for you is where you want to go in life.
Right.
So, I would say if anyone's curious or wants to apply, reach out, apply. There's no harm in trying. There's no fees to our program, and see if it's the right fit for you. And maybe it's your path to stability.
Yes. Well, entryway to stability. So when they get into your program, you provide housing and employment. Now, is the employment on property or is it off property?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I get is folks looking for emergency shelter. And I just want to be really clear that we do not offer emergency shelter. So we try to get if they're unhoused, sleeping in a car outside somewhere not meant for habitation, we want to get them into an emergency shelter so that they have 90 days of stability to do our program.
Okay.
So we have a variety of online training options and in-person training, depending on the career path that you choose. I'm going to help upskill you for that. All of our positions that we help upskill for are entry-level positions in multifamily housing. So that means like leasing agent, maintenance technician, groundskeeper, porter, concierge, housekeeper.
Okay.
Those are kind of the positions. And so we have learning paths for each of those positions. Everyone's going to get fair housing. Everyone's going to be upskilled. I'm going to do resume prep and interview prep. I'm going to make sure you have an interview outfit. And then we're going to send you on out there to go get the job. It is a competitive process, so they have to win the interview. You'll be interviewing against other people who may not be homeless, and that's okay because I have set you up for success.
Right.
And you go in there, and if you win the interview, if you get that job offer, then I'm going to negotiate housing on site at the property for you so that you live and work at the same property. And you'll also get a monthly rental discount. Our program, we make sure that housing is no more than 30% of your pay for the first year.
Okay.
And then we also make sure there's no first month's rent or any move-in fees because you're in an unstable living situation. So the whole goal, is to get you stable. Right. So let's just get you right in. It's really hard to be a good employee and be homeless.
Yes.
It's basically impossible. Right. And so, to be the best employee you can be, we're going to move you in right away so that you can start working and live on site, and just, start a whole new life.
Now this is great. Now these properties that you use, are these properties owned by you or are you partnering with other properties in the community? I'm curious.
I don't own any properties.
Okay. I'm
social service
curious.
worker.
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
mean,
great.
like some people, have enough funding. They've been around that they actually purchase a building and it's theirs to manage. But rarely does that happen.
Yeah. So, no, we have over 60 partners, and these are large companies. That's not 60 communities, that's 60 companies.
Okay.
And so those are national partnerships where they've signed an MOU, an agreement with us that says if they hire our folks, they'll agree to no move-in fees, no first month's rent, and then rent no more than 30% of your pay. So that's what our industry partners are agreeing to. And then we send our candidates on out there. I'm circulating their resume. They're applying. We're trying to get them on out there. We also have a grant that even if you get a job in a non-partner multifamily housing position, we'll still pay your first month's rent and get you moved in.
Okay.
So just such a blessing for people to not have to worry about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's what, one of the things that I love about this organization is, listen, sometimes there are just circumstances that it's just like a series of bad luck. And if, especially, when you've got young kids and you can't put a roof over those kids' heads, like that is, so many things can go wrong that can actually cause even more of a hole that they go down.
Yeah.
There's harmful things, there's trauma that can happen on the streets, there's sexual assault that can happen. There's violence that can happen. And that's why it's like, we got to get these people off of the streets because these people are savable in the sense that if all they just need is for us to just lift them a little bit and then they're on their way.
Yeah.
And so that's what I said when we were talking. I said, and I don't mean to get political, but I want people to hear this, that poo-poo on charities. This is not a charity that is just giving. This is a charity that is helping. Not enabling, right? Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, empowering. We're empowering people. And then now they've gone through the process with me. I sat down, I did mock interview questions. I sat down and I showed them how I made their resume and how they can add to it next time.
Yeah.
They're empowered for the future.
Right.
So it's like the teach Amanda Fish kind of scenario where hopefully now if they ever need to replicate this and go get a different job or move on, that they know how to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do you teach, being that I am the smart shopper, do you
Yeah.
teach any budgeting classes?
We do.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we have a whole financial literacy course.
Okay, good.
And it's probably one of the main things that people want help with.
Yes.
And we pair, once you are in a position, we pair you with a mentor. And that is one of the things that we ask our mentors to be going over.
Okay.
Is, do they want help budgeting? What are finances like? What debts do you have? Is there anything we need to be paying off? What can we really move forward? Especially that year when your rent is highly discounted is like the best time to make all that financial progress.
Yeah, it really is. Now, as far as Entryway, now you're not only just here in Phoenix. There are 12 different cities that you're located in throughout the U.S., which is fantastic. And Phoenix is a recent one for 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question, Mandy. You're the director of Entryway, and you work for a nonprofit. I'm curious, what made you decide to work for this organization? Like, what is it about your background that you want to work for a nonprofit? Because I always have, I don't know if it's I hope it doesn't offend anybody. I always say nonprofit means no profit.
Yeah,
like
no
money. Like you're not making any money. So this has to be a little bit of a passion here.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm grateful in this season of my life. I'm dual income. I have a spouse, but that was not always the case.
Yeah.
And so as a young professional living in metropolitan areas trying to serve the homeless, oh boy, was that hard.
Yeah. You were practically almost homeless.
Yeah, probably. I'm like, how many roommates can I have? But in college, I started raising money for anti-human trafficking efforts. And so I spent 7 years after college working in anti-human trafficking. And one of the things I just kept coming back to is that idea of prevention of, a dollar in prevention is worth $7 in aftercare. That's a disaster statistic, but I believe it extends to housing and homelessness. So a dollar, any effort putting into preventing things from getting worse is just so impactful. And I believe that's where Entryway is. We are preventing chronic homelessness. We're trying our best to make sure people don't have to go down that road. A lot of the people we serve have kids. That means they still have their kids.
Yes.
Because if you're chronic homeless, you probably don't, or you're at risk of losing them.
Yeah.
And so, the sooner we can get involved in these people's lives, the more we lift our community up and, just make it easier for the next generation. Those kids now don't have all that trauma to work through.
Yeah.
They didn't go to 18 different schools. They didn't, all the things that can happen when you're housing insecure. That didn't happen because they had a stable home.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. Mandy, thank you for the work that you do because really, literally by you doing this work is really helping our community be a better place and your passion. So continue doing that. Hopefully you'll get paid enough to, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing you.
I just, that's why I'm going to
dual income
your podcast. I'm like, I need this in my
Smart
life.
shopper saving all the way. Now, with Entryway, you've been in the Valley here for 2 years. Now, do you have any success stories?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you tell me like one or two?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I'll talk about Liliana. Liliana I almost said was. She's a single mother of 3 children. She did not have a high school diploma when she was in high school. Her dad wasn't really in her life, and her mom was very busy, hardworking mom, right? So she's out there, she's probably working 2 jobs.
Trying to survive.
Exactly.
Yep.
And Liliana was left on her own a lot. And she made some poor choices. She made them. We're not making any excuses here. She made poor choices in high school. She got into drugs and alcohol, and she started, kind of running in the bad crowd.
Yeah.
She went to 3 different high schools because they were trying to kind of break her out of that. Didn't work every time. She kind of got back into it. So she had some hard years. And during those years, she had 3 children from 3 different men, and was living in a car in a parking lot with her 3 children and going, I have got to change something.
And none of those men were around to help raise their children, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the other thing. But that's another topic. So go ahead.
Yes. So, and she doesn't get any child support. That's one of the things we're still working on. We're applying for that now.
If someone took responsibilities for their actions, we'd be different. But go ahead.
So she's living in this car. She reaches out to Entryway, and I'm like, well, first things first, we need to get you into a shelter. So she was able to get into Salvation Army Family Shelter in downtown Phoenix. they give them their own units. They have their own unit. They have a community center. They get 3 meals a day. I mean, it's a shelter, but it's a it's not too bad.
It's like the posh shelters, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make you feel like you're living in a shelter so much.
Yes. And they specifically do that because of the children. This is a family shelter. Everyone there has children.
And that's great that you were able to get her in.
Yes. And there's a 3-month wait for family shelters.
I figured that because
yeah, it's a problem out there.
And it's like, okay, well, figure out what you're going to do for 3 months when it's 112 degrees outside and you have 3 kids. Have fun.
I know. So she was able to get in there within 3 months. She got her leasing certificate, her fair housing certificate, her sales training, and then and she's bilingual in Spanish.
Yes,
that was super helpful. So she went to one of our hiring events that we hold, and wowed one of the people there. Actually, they were like, I'm here for a maintenance position. I'm not actually hiring leasing, which is what she was going for. But then next week, someone put in their notice
and they hired her.
And she pulled out the community manager pulled out that resume from her desk, called Liliana, hired her. She got moved in. She has a 2-bedroom apartment. It is just absolutely beautiful.
This gives me goosebumps. Yeah. And so she's maintaining. That's all she needed.
Yeah.
So she made some bad choices with some guys who didn't take responsibility for their actions because that's not okay.
Yep.
That's not okay.
It's not.
Left her with 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, these were her poor choices, but the poor choices were also those men.
Yeah.
But she is taking care of her kids. And now she's doing it on her own.
And she had to dig herself out of that. And she did it with grit and determination. And she's so proud of herself. Like there's a feeling about yourself when you did it. I did it. I got us this place. It was not handed to her. She fought for that.
That's right.
And 3 months of doing training while driving DoorDash to try and feed your family. You know what I mean? Like that's hard.
That's really hard.
But she did it. I also want to tell a maintenance story. Matthew, he is also a family. Maybe I should have picked a non-family to talk about. So Matthew has 2 twin 4-year-old boys.
Okay.
And a partner, a female in his life. And, they moved from Georgia for opportunity. People are coming here to Arizona because they believe there's opportunity here. And I believe that too. But sometimes they're met with things that are harder than they thought.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden you can't quite get on your feet the way you thought you were. And man, things compound. I mean, credit card interest. I mean, things just build so quickly. So all of a sudden now he's also living in his car. That's a theme you might hear amongst people's stories. So him and his partner and their 2 twin boys are living in this car in this heat. And luckily he has experience in maintenance.
Okay.
So I was able to work with him to.
So he found you.
Yeah.
Like, how did he find you? Because he's from Georgia.
Yeah. Honestly, probably Google. I don't know. That's a good question. How did he find me? Maybe. Yeah. I'm not even sure. That's a good question that I'll have to ask.
But I bet you a lot of homeless shelters probably know of you guys too. I would assume, so.
Yeah. At the time he found us, he was not yet in a shelter, but and so we worked with him to get his EPA certification to like handle refrigerant, like air conditioners. And
he's got a really good trade.
Exactly.
I mean, they make good money, those guys.
Yeah. So he is about to move in. He moves in October 1st.
Okay.
Him and his family into their 2-bedroom, and I'm so excited for him.
So currently, right now, are they living in a homeless shelter?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, we're there. We're at the final stretch, and he's driving to work every day on a spare tire. He hasn't gotten his first paycheck yet, and we're all like, okay, you can make it. Fingers crossed.
Oh my gosh.
So, and we give him some gas cards, but we're just praying he makes it till October 1st, where he can move in.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm looking at your face as you're talking about this, and I can tell you really enjoy what you do. Like, you're passionate about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what a wonderful thing. Like, every day you go to work and literally you get to help people. And I'm sure there are some days that are really, really rough.
Well, I'm just going to, 2/3 of people don't make it through our program.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, it's just the reality of people are in all sorts of different life places when they apply, and they're not always ready to get to work. And or maybe they were, but then something happens and now they're not.
Right.
And so they can always leave us and come back. That's a fine option. But sometimes people self-sabotage. They start to believe the things that others have said about them that aren't positive, and they're like, I'm worthless. I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not. All those self-sabotaging things. They tend to creep up. People tell me this is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. This is,
of course
they feel shame over their situation.
100%.
And then anything that feeds into that can just make you feel worthless. And then if you stop believing in yourself, that's one of the hardest things. So, when we look for volunteers, sometimes I'm like, we just need like cheerleaders who are in their corner, who are texting them and supporting them. What jobs are you applying to today? And just, there for them as people walk through believing in themselves again.
Right.
Yeah.
So what can we do as a community here to help with this program in ways that we can? I know you've got a call to action here, a couple of them. So share them with me.
Yeah. So right now in September, we are doing a professional clothing drive. So if you have professional clothing that you want to give to someone in need, we are collecting that at Western Wealth Communities, which is right off the light rail in Phoenix. So we're doing that all through the month of September. So we'd love your professional clothing. As well, if anyone wants to volunteer with us, we need mentors and resume writers and interview prep and all those things that help people get on their feet. I'm one staff. I probably have 20 people on the training part and 15 people in the placed in that 1 year where we work with them after. And that's just too much for one person, right?
Yeah.
So we rely on our volunteers.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. And so if anyone wants to volunteer, there is a background check and a training process, but you would apply online, entrywaytalent.org.
Okay.
And then there's a volunteer button.
Okay. Which, by the way, I will have all of these websites that you mentioned posted on my blog at smartshopperdaphne.com. So folks, all the things that she said, I will have them linked there. Okay. And then you said, like, if you donate, you get some tax credit.
That's right. So as we talk about smart living and savvy, and savvy, ways to spend your money, if you pay Arizona state taxes, you are eligible for the tax credit. This is not a deduction. I just want to be clear that this is different than, the IRS national deduction. This is only within the state of Arizona, and it only applies to your Arizona state taxes.
Yes.
But it's $1 for dollar credit.
Right. Yeah.
And so for anyone who doesn't know, there are 3 different tax credits within Arizona: charitable tax credit, the school tax credit, and then foster care tax credits. So we are in the charitable branch, and there's a max that you can give per category.
Okay.
And the max for 2024 for singles, it's $470, and for married filing jointly is $938. And so you can give that to Entryway. Those dollars are going to go directly to serving.
So deduct them out. Yeah, and directly to serving the community.
Yeah, exactly. And you would have paid it anyway. You would have paid that in your Arizona state taxes, or you can redirect your tax dollars to us.
Right.
So you can in Arizona, you can choose where your state tax dollars go, and it's just a great way to empower people to make a difference in the community. If you're like, oh, but I donate to my kid's school, you can still donate.
It's a different tax credit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is fantastic. Mandy, thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and share with us this great program and the things that you're doing for our community. Like, this is huge because we got to knock this out. We got to knock this homelessness out, especially situational homelessness.
And it takes a village, right? We all need to do our part. And this is my niche. This is our part. But what's your part? So to each person out there, is there something you can be doing to support people struggling in our community?
Yes. Well, I've got some nice clothes I'll be donating. I promise you. It's on 5005 East Washington Street, and it's open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. where people can drop off that clothes from till the end of the month, till the 30th.
Yep.
Perfect.
Right.
Okay. It's called Entryway, and I appreciate you. And folks, don't forget, as always, I'm Daphne Monroe, your smart shopper.